I'm about to lose my mind. You've been gone for so long. I'm running out of time. I need a doctor. Call me a doctor. I need a doctor.
What's going on, guys? How's it going? So today the Tigers, actually yesterday, the Tigers officially opened up their spring training camp for pitchers and catchers. Although guys have reported a bit early already to spring training. Miguel Cabrera was there actually, I think, last week. Verlander, he's usually always typically there very early. Pitchers and catchers have now had to officially report come Thursday. And with the start of spring training, even though it doesn't look like it outside, baseball season is pretty close to being upon us. The Tigers, they probably start actually playing games probably at the first week of March. I think it was when they actually start playing games, maybe very, very late February. But with the new spring training, always comes new storylines. And this year for Tigers camp, there is a plethora of storylines. Last year it was like, can the Tigers repeat as division champs? Can they get back to the World Series? Stuff like that. How is Anibal Sanchez going to do? With after getting his new contract. And that was kind of like the storylines last year at spring training and whatnot. But this year, it's a bit different. It's a very, very interesting camp because you got new manager, and Brad Ausmus is gonna, is there. It's gonna be the first time since 2006 that it's not Jim Whelan and taking the squad to Lakeland. So I mean, like I said, there's a bunch of storylines. So this video is gonna be about, I think, the 5 biggest storylines so far to spring training and to watch for throughout spring. So storyline number 1, Justin Verlander's health. Verlander has been throwing off the mound in Lakeland a little bit. He had a muscle, I think it was somewhere up in his arm up in here. He tore a muscle working out. And I think he had the surgery about a month ago. And he's right on schedule to be throwing and ready to go for opening day. It's going to be interesting to see how his rehab goes throughout spring. Does he get healthy enough at all to pitch anytime at spring? Hopefully he doesn't have any setbacks. That's going to be a thing I'm really watching for. But basically hearing about his health and is he going to be ready in time for opening day, and hopefully he is. I mean, that's what we want to do. I mean, if Verlander misses a start, he misses a start. But the one thing I'm most concerned about with Verlander this spring is him not having any setbacks. Because, guys, it doesn't take much for a guy to tweak something while rehabbing, and it could set him back an extra 2-3 weeks. So that's one of the biggest things I'm going to be watching out for in spring. Justin Verlander's health, and he's going to be ready by opening day. 2, Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer has already said today, once again, he'd like to stay in Detroit. Well, you guys know my thoughts a lot on Max Scherzer already. I've reiterated it in a few videos already that I don't feel that the Tigers should extend him if he wants $20+ million. If he wants Anibal Sanchez money for annual average value, which is about $15-16 million a year, I would gladly give it to him. Even at his numbers, prior to last year, he was definitely worth that kind of money. Like I said before, he's a guy that he's never really until last year put together a season from start to finish of consistent baseball. Last year was the first time he's done that, and for him to want to get ace-type money, even though he did win the Cy Young, and he's I don't know if you can consider him the ace after 1 year of the Tigers and after Verlander's dominance since 2006, really. He's definitely a number 1 starter on just about any other staff in baseball. So you can make the argument, but he's not worth the money that Clayton Kershaw commands, money that Verlander commands, money that King Felix commands. If he thinks because he won the Cy Young, he's going to go into spring training and get all this money, and especially with Scott Boras being his agent, and Boras doesn't let any of his clients ever really talk to any kind of for any kind of deals because he wants them to hit the free agent market. He wants them to go out there. He wants them to test the market. He wants them to try to get as much money as they possibly can by letting teams bid on them. And I just don't think Scherzer is going to be worth that much money. I really, truly don't think that a deal is going to be reached, and I think that he's going to end up hitting the free agent market. It's not like Verlander, where Verlander was here since 2006, since 2005, really, when he made his when he made his first start. Scherzer, he's become a fan favorite over the last couple of years. He had that dominating year last year when the Cy Young, but he's not worth the money I think people think he's going to get, $20+ billion a year for a guy, like I said, who hasn't we finally put up his first consistent season. So I highly doubt that deal is going to happen. To be honest with you, that a deal is going to get done. But that's going to be a storyline, especially with that's going to questions going to be asked a lot. I guarantee you by Brad Ausmus and Dave Dombrowski. Since Scherzer said you have to opening day to extend me, or I will test the free agent market. And I really think, especially with Boris being his agent, that he's going to hit the free agent market. He will, and he probably won't be a Tiger next year. I really truly think that. 3. How is Brad Ausmus going to fare as his first year as a manager? We're not going to really see. How can I put this? We're not really going to see any differences, I don't think, right away between the Leland style of managing and Ausmus style of managing. Don't get me wrong. I think there's going to be some different noticeable differences right off the bat. Maybe like how he runs, where he chooses to hit and run, who he lets steal and doesn't steal, and does he steal in certain situations, stuff like that. How he relies on guys, to get out of innings, his bullpen management. We're not going to see too big of a drastic difference in any bit of spring training in the first early goings of it. I don't think we're going to see any kind of difference in managing until about the 2 weeks before opening day, because that's when starters start going 5-6 innings, occasionally 7 innings, because they're starting to get their arms stretched out for the season. But for the first few weeks of spring training, the first 3 starts that guys go, guys don't see any more than 2 innings, 3 innings at first. Even starters get taken out after 2 at bats for the other guys. But as the rosters gradually shrink over the course of spring training, I think is when we're going to start to see how this club is going to play under Ausmus' tutelage. That's when I think we're finally going to see the differences between the Leland managed Tigers and the difference between the Ausmus managed Tigers. So we're not going to see any differences at first, and we truly won't see how this team's going to do until the games start counting, obviously, on opening day. But I think by the end of spring training, we're going to get a little sneak glimpse of what to expect for how the Tigers are going to look throughout the season under Ausmus' managing. 4, Drew Smyly. I want to see how he comes out and pitches yet again in the starting rotation. Last year, him and Rick Porcello were battling it out for the 5th spot. Ultimately, Rick Porcello won it because he had 2 walks in 35 innings. I mean, he was... Actually, I don't think he walked anyone in spring training last year. His command was outstanding. His ERA was micro. I mean, he literally pitched, I think, the best baseball out of anyone in the staff last year in spring training. He outpitched everyone. I mean, he was dead set on he was not going to lose the 5th spot in the rotation because he knew he had a really bad year the year before. He was incorporating that curveball, and his command even improved even more. His velocity looked a little bit better. And Drew Smyly ultimately lost out to him. Smyly was edging him out a little bit, about halfway, but Smyly had a couple rough outings in a row. And Porcello pretty much, yanked that job away from him, and ultimately landed Drew Smyly back in the bullpen. Well, Smyly's now going to be the 5th man on the rotation, and I'm interested to see, since he did pitch a lot of innings for a reliever last year, but I'm interested to see when he is out there in spring, especially towards the end when he starts going 6 innings, 5-6 innings, how his stuff looks towards the end of his 5-6 innings. How effective is he getting guys out the second, third time around? That's what I'm interested to see. I mean, he wasn't bad when he was a starter when he first came up before he got put in the bullpen for a year and a half. I know he had quite a few good starts in a row, but towards the end there he got some injury problems. He got hit up a couple times. I'm interested to see how he stretches out for after he sees the lineup a couple times, and it's just gonna be interesting to see how he goes into the starter's role. That's what I'm interested to see, if he's gonna be able to leave the mentality of he only has to pitch an inning and just throw it all out there, even though he doesn't throw super hard, but to where he's got to, go through a lineup potentially 4 times. That's what I'm interested to see, how he reacts to being put back in that role again. And I think he should do well because I have a lot of confidence in Drew Smyly, but it's going to be interesting to see how many innings he gives the Tigers this year. It's going to be interesting to see how, like I said, how he gets through lineups more than one time, because a lot of guys can get their lineup 1 or 2 times. But that 3rd, 4th time, they start to get smashed because they don't, have a repertoire of pitches to get a lineup more than once. And I'm interested to see if Drew Smyly can do that and how he does it in spring training and how he looks and how effective he is at it. And then 5 is how the bullpen's going to look. There's a lot of guys that I think, I don't think this bullpen's set in stone whatsoever. Dabrowski didn't really add to it. It's perplexed me all offseason. It's interesting. I'm going to be interested to see how, first off, Nathan's definitely a lock, but I'm interested to see if there's going to be any young rookies that propel themselves into a spot where they could potentially be up with the big club that actually didn't look like they were a potential player for the bullpen. Like guys like Melvin Mercedes, maybe Robbie Ray impresses so much that they maybe decide to use him as a lefty guy, which I highly doubt because, he's still a low ball guy and he's definitely looked upon as a starter. You got guys like Adam Wilk who maybe have a chance, Jose Ortega who maybe has a chance, Luke Peconin maybe has a chance, guys like that, maybe Casey Crosby, which I highly doubt. They converted him to a reliever. Guys like that. I really want to see Melvin Mercedes because he's another guy that was a Bruce Rendon build kind of guy. Even though Bruce Rendon lost a lot of weight this offseason, he's like a Bruce Rendon kind of build who throws really, really, really hard like Rendon does. It'd be cool to see. Maybe he could surprise some people and pitch so well that he makes a big club like Luis Marte did a couple years ago. No one was talking about him making the club at all, and all of a sudden, he comes up and. He made the club, and he got injured and didn't start right away, but he pitched so well in spring training that he pitched himself right onto the roster. So I think with how bad this bullpen potentially looks, I think there's a lot of spots in that bullpen that could potentially be won, and it's going to be interesting to see how those roster battles go for those spots in the bullpen because I think the only guarantees right now who are going to be in the big leagues are Nathan, Rondon. I think Albuquerque's probably a lock, and I think even though Phil Koch sucks, I think he's a lock. But I think there's still a lot of guys that could come in, like Melvin Mercedes. Adam Wilk maybe has a chance, like Peconin, Jose Ortega. There's a lot of guys in there that I think could pitch well enough because of how bad the bullpen looks still that they could pitch themselves onto the roster. So I'm going to be looking for that. So in review, you got Verlander's health, Scherzer's contract situation. How Ausmus manages, see any differences. Drew Smyly, how he copes as being a starter, and the bullpen. If there's any arms that could pitch themselves onto the roster and potentially help bolster this weak bullpen. So that's all I got for you guys today. It's cold here right now. We got a lot of snow on the ground, but it's all right, guys. Baseball's right around the corner. We just got to fight through this last month and a half, and I think it's 47 days or 46 days, and we got baseball back. So the spring training games start, I think, in a couple weeks, and then we'll have some kind of baseball to watch. But other than that, let's just be happy spring training's back. The rest of the team, I think, reports in the next few days because I know it's just pitchers and catchers plus whatever position players decided to come to camp. But it should be good. And so as always, check out the MLB Talk 101. I'm always on over there. I don't know if I'm doing my podcast tonight on here with my good friend Mike. Might not. I don't know. It's still up in the air because I think I'm busy tonight. But follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. And got baseball back. We're in the very early beginning stages, but we're in the right direction. Have a good one, guys.